Chris here, Remax in Polk County, Florida, and we are here at the end of the month, actually beginning of October. I'm a week late on recording this. I was sick with bronchitis last week, but we are here at the end of the month, and so that means we have our stats through the end of August available. This is your September market update for Polk County, Florida. Let's get into the numbers. Polk County saw 1,204 closed sales in August 2025. That's compared to 1,325 in August 2024. That's a decrease of 9.1%, so the housing market is still slowing. Cash sales as a percentage of closed sales, 21.7% of all sales were cash sales compared to 20.7% a year ago. It's actually an increase of 4.8%. The median sales price in Polk County, $308,450. That's compared to $317,000 a year ago. That is a decrease of 2.7%. The average sales price is $325,097. That is compared to $331,807 a year ago. That's a decrease of 2%. So we did see home prices drop in from this time last year. Median percent of original list price, sellers received 95.7% of original list price compared to 97.2% a year ago. That's a decrease of 1.5%. The median time to contract, so how long did we get an acceptable offer, average 51 days compared to 41 days a year ago. That's an increase of 24.4%. And the median time to sale or closing, 96 days compared to 85 days a year ago, an increase of 12.9%. New pending sales, 1,279. That's compared to 1,241 a year ago. That's an increase of 3.1%. New listings, 1,622 new listings compared to 1,779 new listings a year ago. That's a decrease of 8.8%. So we did see fewer homes come onto the market this time compared to last year. Active inventory, 6,174 compared to 5,829. That's an increase of 5.9%. And then finally, month supply of inventory, we're at 5.2 months supply of inventory compared to 4.6 months supply of inventory a year ago. That's an increase of 13%. It does still mean we're technically in a seller's market, but there's going to be a lot of zip codes in Polk County that are actually in a buyer's market. Tune in and we'll talk a little bit more about what this means for you in Polk County. So we saw some interesting things with the numbers this month. We definitely saw a decrease of activity, which is concerning because 2024 was, at least based on recent data, the slowest real estate market in 30 years. But if you correct for the increase in the number of people in the United States, it's actually the slowest market in history. So the fact that we saw a decrease in closed sales compared to this time last year, which was the slowest market in history, doesn't bode well for what the market's going to do in the coming months potentially. I do think that a lot of this is still tied to interest rates and also tied to the uncertainty in the economy. The unemployment numbers aren't looking good. Inflation numbers aren't really looking good. Tariffs are going into effect, which is only going to hurt inflation. While the Fed did lower their federal borrowing interest rates, which more directly impact credit card debt, new car loans, they don't directly impact mortgage loans. We saw a minor drop in mortgage rates, but then actually they went back up again. And I don't know that we're going to see a significant drop in mortgage rates in the immediate future. I do think by probably the end of the first quarter of 2026, we might see interest rates drop into the fives, probably the upper fives. I do think that will bring a lot of buyers back to the market. If all else with the economy is at least stable. I think the uncertainty in the economy is still holding a lot of people back. One of the questions I get asked a lot is now the right time to buy? And this is usually from people who are trying to time the market. And the problem with that strategy is that the lower that mortgage rates are, generally speaking, the higher that prices are going to be. So while you're going to save on the mortgage interest rate, you're going to pay more for the same house. So if you wait for the bottom of the mortgage rates to drop out, you're actually going to probably paying close to the most you'll ever pay for that house. The best answer to the question, is now the right time to buy, is to answer that question depending on your individual circumstance. So owning a home, if you can afford to own a home, is generally speaking going to be a better investment for most people than renting. The exception to that is if you're not sure you're going to stay in the home very long, okay? So if you think that you're only going to stay in a home 2 to 3 years, then it probably makes a lot more sense to rent. And it's probably crazy that you're hearing a real estate agent telling you that. But the reality is, especially in a market as volatile as ours is right now, there's no guarantee that your home is going to increase in value in 2 to 3 years, okay? However, if you're planning to purchase and stay in the home for 5 to 7, maybe even as much as 10 years, then now is the right time to buy, and there's no question about it. And here's why. There has been no 10-year period in the history of housing in the United States in which housing prices have gone down. In other words, even if, like I did before I was in real estate, I bought a home in Gainesville. I bought in 2007, almost immediately before the housing market crashed and bottomed out. And that was a once-in-a-lifetime crash. Even if the market does drop, it's not going to drop to that extent, probably again in our lifetime. That being said, it did. It dropped, and I lost about $100,000 off the value of the home I just purchased. I ultimately, due to all kinds of circumstances, had to sell about 10 years later. And when I sold 10 years later, I did earn back all $100,000 that I had lost. In fact, I actually made a couple thousand on the sale. Now, had I held it for another 10 years, I would have made a couple $100,000 on it, okay? But just to say that buying right before the worst housing market crash in the history of the United States, I was down 100,000. 10 years later, I was able to break even and actually walk away with a little bit of money. I just share that to demonstrate that if you can hold a property long enough, you will make money on it. You will earn equity beyond just what you're paying off on the mortgage for those 10 years. You'll also see an increase in your home value. So again, there's been no 10-year period in the history of the United States housing market in which someone bought a house and then 10 years later actually sold it for less. Now, that's assuming you maintain the home. Of course, if you let it go to crap and the roof's falling in and the floor is all torn up and the cabinets are falling apart, that's a little different. But if you maintain the home like most people do, over that 10-year period, you're going to see an increase in the value of your home. So if you can afford to purchase, if you're ready, willing, and able, and you can afford to purchase a home, now is the right time to purchase. Obviously, if you can't, then it's not, and that's just the reality. And if you're not going to stay in the home for very long, then it's not a good time to purchase. If you want to discuss your individual situation, please reach out to me. I do free consultations to people all the time about buying and selling and whether it makes sense. I have some sellers that are holding right now because based on the numbers they need, I don't believe they can get those numbers in this current market, no matter how much I market the home. At the end of the day, I as a realtor don't determine the value of your home. You as the owner don't determine the value of your home. The market determines the value of your home. And if the market is depreciating home values and you need to get a certain number, then it's probably not the right time for you to sell. And I don't have a problem telling my clients that. Obviously, I hope that when the time is right, then they'll reach back out to me and I'll have an opportunity to help them sell their home. But the reality is that as an advisor or consultant, which is really what I think of myself as and what I think realtors should be to potential clients and to their clients, then my job is to help you make the right decision, whether it's time for you to buy or sell a home, based on your individual circumstances, not just based on what the market's saying. Okay, because that doesn't take into account your unique situation. If you know that you're only going to be in Central Florida for 3 years, even if all the economic indicators indicate now's the right time to buy, for you, it's not the right time to buy. And I need to be able to tell you that. Even though that means I'm not going to make money off you helping you purchase a home at the time. So the answer to the question is now the right time to buy is it depends. It depends on your unique situation. So let's talk about your unique situation and let's see if it is the right time to buy for you. And if not, then let's stay in touch and we can follow the market, follow your situation, and together we can determine when it's the right time for you to buy. If it is the right time for you to buy, I can't emphasize enough new construction. Yes, there can be concerns about they go up so fast or how well they built, et cetera. But the reality is the builders can give incentives that most home sellers can't with resales. You're going to get your closing costs paid. You're going to have a 10-year warranty on the structural, 1 year on everything, 2 years on the major systems with most builders. Peace of mind because you aren't going to have major repairs that are going to cost you out of pocket, generally speaking, in the first few years of owning the home. They're buying down the interest rate, so if interest rate is a big driver for you, I'm seeing interest rates that the builders are offering in the 4s, sometimes even the 3s. And that's for the life of the loan. It's not just a 2-year buy down or anything like that. And there's a lot of inventory, so there's a lot of incentives. They're dropping prices on the new homes as well. You can get into a brand new 3 or 4 bedroom home for less than $350,000 in our area now. If you want to explore new home opportunities, again, reach out to me. I'd love to help. As always, if you or someone you know is looking to buy or sell in Central Florida, please reach out to me. Remember, you can't miss with Chris. Have a great day, everybody.